The gospel we just heard today that our deacon read for us is very commonly known, as you know, as the 8 Beatitudes. Kind of a list of 8 virtues, if you will, 8 values that Jesus proposes to us to try to live in order to be good followers of Him. Today I just want to mention one of those Beatitudes, the one that says, "Blessed are the merciful, for mercy will be theirs." It's the only one that uses the same word twice, merciful and mercy. When Jesus talks about a merciful person, in other places in Scripture, I think He gives us an idea of what and who a merciful person is. We understand that a merciful person is someone that shows real goodness in their relation to other people. Also, a merciful person is someone who helps to show others that they are worthwhile by treating them that way. A merciful person is someone who is respectful to others. At the same time, has to understand, in order to be respectful to other people, you have to respect yourself. And finally, Jesus tells us that a person is merciful who sees and values what is important in life and tries their very best to recognize their dependence upon God, and at the same time recognizing, having that confidence that the Lord is truly always with them. If you put that into your lives, you see, Jesus said, "Blessed are the merciful, for mercy will be theirs." Whenever I think about that word merciful or mercy, I remember a priest that I met now shortly after I was ordained a priest, and I've been ordained 47 years. So probably I met this gentleman about 45 years ago. His name was Father Robert Green. And Father Green was a missionary, a Maryknoll missionary, who worked in China as a missionary in the late 1950s. And during that time, he told me that there were a countless number of times that the communist soldiers, the communist government who ruled China at that time, told him that he had to stop preaching. He had to stop praying in public. He had to stop celebrating the Eucharist or baptizing people, trying to convert people. They told him that he had to stop that or else. Well, he decided he didn't know what the or else would be. He kind of understood probably what it was going to be, but he didn't want to stop doing the reason he came to China, to be a missionary. So he obviously, Father Green knew the dangers involved, but he continued. And whatever else happened, he was arrested and he was put in prison. He just wasn't put in any prison. He was put in the basement of a prison where there were no windows. During that time, many months that he was in prison, he endured many hardships. They gave him one little bitty meal each day. When they would find him in any type of a prayer situation, if they went to his little cubby hole that he lived in, if he was kneeling behind the cot or next to the cot, they would go get a club and they beat him very severely. He was put in solitary confinement, and he said he didn't know quite exactly what would be different than what he'd been in for the first 3 months, but it was even worse. The room was about 6 feet by 6 feet. And whenever they remembered that he was a Catholic priest, he said somehow or another the communist soldiers wanted to treat him especially badly and to try to beat him more severely. The thing I always remember about that time I met Father Green, and golly guys, it's probably 45 years ago now, and he gave me his book. After he got out, he wrote a book and it's called Calvary in China. And he told me that if there was any scripture he tried to always remember, it was the scripture from today, the gospel from today, the Beatitudes. And he always told me that, he said he always would remember that one particular beatitude that I mentioned, blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. He tried every day to tell himself that Jesus would be merciful to him, that Jesus would help him in the situation he was in. He was probably a man about 6'3", and he told me when he was arrested, he weighed a bit over 200 pounds. A year and a half later, when he was released from that torture, he weighed probably between 125 and 130 pounds. And he said when he finally got released and some of the other missionaries got him out of that prison, he said he looked, the funny thing, he said, I looked in the mirror and I didn't recognize myself. That's how badly he looked. As I said, he wrote that book, and I've got that book, and he even signed it for me. It's entitled Calvary in China. And in that book, he relates much of what went on during his days in China as a missionary. I think the Feast of All Saints really helps me to understand there's so many of us who can be categorized right now on this earth as a saint. Maybe not a canonized saint, not a big S, but certainly a saint. And I think Father Green was one of those individuals I've had the opportunity in my life to meet that tells me so very, very much about what it means to understand, to appreciate Christ being present in your life. Remember, guys, the Lord is with you each and every day. He loves you. He cares for you. He calls you to follow Him. Even when we don't listen, He still calls you. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy.